Smiling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it's
Hey everybody, welcome to the post-show wrap-up of the Arkansas Shrimp Tank podcast. I'm your host, Rich Jensen, along with my co-host, David Sims. We've both had colds the last week, so we sound a little froggy, but we just had a great show with Alan Engstrom of the CFO Network. Each week on the post-show wrap-up video, we're trying to bring you some of the highlights of some of the discussions we had with our guest. And today's was really good. In fact, our very first question was a lot of fun, David.
That's right. Yeah, they're not going to want to miss the show because there's a lot in there. It's a hard time, figuring out the three that we wanted to talk about.
Exactly.
But Alan Engstrom worked for Intel, and actually for Intel Capital when they made tons of money. They had a bunch of money to buy a bunch of startups back in the late 90s, right?
Right.
In the
Late
90s. And one of the first things we asked on the show was what it's like to spend $1 billion. So what was that like, Alan?
For the finance guy, it was terrifying. For the general managers, we were buying these companies. It was like Christmas morning for them. They were getting shiny new toys.
Yeah,
and it wasn't their money. It was shareholder money. And so the finance guy, my role was to be the steward of shareholder capital. And so it was terrifying for me.
I bet.
I was reading an article once about how easy it is to spend other people's money versus your own. So
it's very easy.
Very easy.
Happens all the time in corporate
even
America.
like you said, one valuation, they had $6 million revenue. They got paid $600 million.
We paid $600 million for a company that only had $6 million in
revenue.
revenue.
Can you believe that?
Yes. We're going to try and get that for BRS.
That's right.
It was a crazy time.
Hey, we also asked you a question that I think is really interesting for our listeners and viewers to hear, and that was, I was talking about at what point should a startup consider hiring a CFO?
That's an excellent question, and I would say there's definitely, CFO is of course a very valuable member of the senior executive team. There's definitely a time you need to consider hiring a CFO. I usually practice or preach, I should say, caution. It's very hard for a lot of startup entrepreneurs who aren't finance and accounting experts to evaluate a CFO and to understand when do I need to hire a CFO. It's obviously a very expensive resource, but also when you have to understand what you need. And what we found in all of our recruiting of accounting and finance people is you usually can find somebody who is either kind of an accounting mentality person or a finance mentality person. And both are very different, and they usually you don't find both of those competencies in one human brain. And then you've got more of a strategic thinker or more of a detail-oriented person. And the implication is startup entrepreneurs need all four quadrants. If you could think of it in terms of four quadrants: strategic, detail, accounting, finance. It's really hard to evaluate who you're getting when you hire a CFO. And then trying to get them to play equally well in all four quadrants can be difficult. They usually kind of gravitate to one quadrant. And so it can be a difficult process.
Yeah, that was a really helpful segment in the show. You're really going to want to listen to this whole podcast. It's fantastic. It's packed full of great wisdom. The third question I want to ask you on this wrap-up is you talked about a budget, the importance of having a budget, and kind of two perspectives on it. Can a budget predict the future or a process to help you document your goals?
And it's a word that most people hate anyway.
That's right. Yeah. So talk about that, because that was really helpful too, and what your own view on it is.
Right. So a lot of people don't do budgets because it's hard, and they say, well, there's no way to predict the future, and we have a little bit different mentality on budgets. Budgets are not a crystal ball for your business. They are a document, if you will, or spreadsheet, or whatever it is, that contains your best guesses, your best assumptions, all of your goals about what's going to happen in the future. So it starts with your strategy, then you come out with goals, and then you go through the process of understanding all the requirements that you need to have in place in order to get there.
Right.
And so it's a process of understanding your business better. It's a process of aligning your team to the vision and the goals. And then as you're moving forward, it's a great tool to help you stay aligned and stay focused.
Right.
Provides a little bit of accountability to you and the team.
Right.
Say, hey, this is what we said we were going to do. These are the milestones we need to be hitting, and these are the requirements and results we need to be achieving in order to stay on track to those goals.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank Alan so much for coming on the show in the first place. But I know if you see something like CFO, you think, oh, this is going to be boring. This is going to be all about numbers.
Definitely
and
not.
budgeting. And it was not. It was not. And if you're an entrepreneur, no matter if you're in your first month or your third or fourth year, you definitely want to listen to the entire podcast. You get lots of free advice that you would pay a lot for at the CFO Network, but just a really lot of really good insight into how to really run a business from the business point of view and the numbers point of view. Alan, if people wanted to get a hold of you or the CFO Network, what's the best way they could do that?
Sure. Just check us out on the internet. It's www.cfonet.biz, or just give me a call, 501-832-2363.
All right. Well, that's another post-show wrap-up video. Next week, we're going to have another special guest. It's going to be Barry Goldberg. We think it's called Intellechy Partners, if we're pronouncing that correctly.
Intellechy or Intellechy, we'll find out.
We'll find out
You got to
next
watch the
week.
show to make sure you learn and know what it is.
Hey, I encourage you, go listen to the entire podcast with Alan at arkansas.shrimptankpodcast.net. I almost said .net because yours is .com. And remember, until next week, stay safe. And to become a shark, we all start out as shrimp.